What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter. Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. Power lines that are just kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg. I'm joined today with Deepa Akula. Is that how you pronounce that?
Yes, you're right, Dan. You
Okay,
got
close
it.
enough anyway. Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, for those of you in the audience that haven't seen a chance encounter before, what we do is we go through the five different motivations that I've found that commercial real estate investors may have for wanting their next acquisition. And I say, which one's you? And then I go through the six different roles in a commercial deal. And I say, which one's your core competency that you're most likely to contribute to the next commercial deal? But before that, I always like to get my guests to introduce themselves, since that's such an important thing in this industry. So, Deepa, could you please introduce yourself for the audience?
Yeah, no, sure. Well, thank you for having me on Chance Encounters. I am Deepa Akula. I'm based out of Seattle, Washington. I am a multifamily syndicator and I started as a limited partner and LP'd in about 800 units now, which is four syndications, and I'm a GP in two syndications, which is 400 units together.
Mhm.
And by training, I'm a mechanical and aerospace engineer, and I'm a licensed professional civil structural engineer. So yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So, one of the things that, if you don't know engineering, they have lots of different types of engineering, and there are actually code words to mean math. Just lots and lots and lots of math. It's math and more math. They have different names, like they call the classes different things, but they all just turn out to be math. But what can you do? So, but the first segment in Chance Encounters is that we go through the five different motivations because beginners, who's clearly not you, they'll know their motivation, but they won't know their role. So I go through this one first. So the five different motivations I've found. The first one is preserving purchasing power. Okay, so if you are in a position where your wealth is the source of your income, in other words, cash flow is how you end up making ends meet, then purchasing power is the big priority on your mind because you're worried about inflation. The second reason for wanting a commercial deal, my one, is trading time for wealth. So if you have a background in engineering or tech or anything like that, then you might be aware of the fact that income is the biggest way to get taxed out of anything. So if you can just pivot and then somehow apply your skills to commercial real estate or something like that, then you're getting rewarded for your time in the form of wealth, which is much better. And the next reason is the most common one, which is to fast track retirement. And there are a couple things that are implied when you say fast track retirement. Like if somebody is like in their early 20s and they say that they're fast tracking their retirement, then it's like, well, where did you get this starting capital where you can actually say that, you're working solely on your retirement here? I just won't, I basically won't buy it if that's your answer on that one. But the other one that's more important is that with retirement, there's an end goal in sight. One day you want to throw in the towel or whatever, and who knows where that's going to be. Whereas the next group, they are so ambitious, they want to buy their entire hometown, and they're the ones who they're not going to rest on their laurels once they become accredited investors or whatnot. They're going to be going for the billions and billions, and just that motivation there, it's important to have at least one of them on every team. But that brings me to the more or less polar opposite, or at least as far as motivation goes. There are some people who have a sector of society, or perhaps it has to do with animals or something like that. and they realize that accumulating wealth is one of the most reliable ways to have a bigger social impact. So commercial properties is their choice to end up helping that sector of society. So those are the five different motivations. What mixture of those most closely resembles your own situation, Deepa?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking it what mixture. So it is a mixture. I'm more like you, and I think I resonate with the second one where I'm trading my time for wealth. And I was trading my time for money. I was a high wage earner, being a PE. So skip the step. I loved every minute of being a PE. But this is all about engineering. I loved it. I loved that you brought up numbers. It's all about numbers and people to me. So real estate is not different at all. It's all about numbers and people. So I closely resonate with the second one. And fast tracking retirement is like a side effect of that. Like that was not the goal, but it's kind of happening. And I might get in trouble here for coloring outside the lines, but it's not irrational need to help tenants, but to help everyone that I come in contact with in general, just to kind of introduce them to this asset class, because it's a high level investment, right? It's private placement. So that, and also just being a PE, it's like the cornerstone of being a PE is like thinking about the greater good and thinking about yourself last. Like that's kind of how we are, um, in doctrine, pretty much. Think about others and the greater good and general public safety first. So just providing housing for, America who can't afford or don't want to buy a house. So yeah.
Yeah, it's something I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this, but it's something that I put a ton of thinking into over the last couple of years. And one of the biggest ones, because I've been thinking about the kind of reputation that we as landlords end up getting, and one of the biggest problems is, like commercial real estate. You look at the term commercial real estate. That means it's real estate for the purpose of commerce. Okay, like the whole point is to make it a business. And so like I think that there's this mentality of where it's like, oh well, you just inherited your building, and so you're just basically getting paid for being alive. And that's a tough uphill battle that I think landlords have to fight. But I think the best way of looking at it is you'd pay a maid if you could afford them more often than not, and that's basically what you're paying in an apartment complex. You're paying to make sure that there's no trash in the hallways, or that everything else is taken care of. So it definitely is honest work, and I think that the reputation it has doesn't match the dignity of it. I guess it's just the slumlords that end up making us all look bad, but I don't know.
I agree.
So yeah, go
You know,
ahead.
it's win-win for everyone that's involved with commercial real estate. Like residents win when we do our job right, and
Mhm.
our investors win. They have their capital working hard for them somewhere in like a hard asset. So yeah, we definitely need to work on the perception of landlords.
Right, right. Yeah, well, and that's the thing is landlords are too busy to really work on their PR as a group. It's not like there's a big association or lobbyists or whatever. It tends to be a bit smaller than that. But anyway, to get out of the weeds, let's go to the next segment here, which is on the different roles in a real estate deal. So usually when I'm explaining commercial real estate, I start with a repositioner. So a repositioner, they are necessarily part of acquisitions, and they have to have the different relationships with everybody, but they're looking at a bunch of different properties. They're underwriting them, which means they're doing the arithmetic to find out, what does this property have any upside? And they have to know the industry well enough to know, it's like, well, what can we do to squeeze more money out of this, or to make this property make more profits each year? And so they're looking for upside, and the two main ways that you can find upside are better, more efficient operations. If you can make your costs a little bit lower, whether it is actual flushings of toilets or, the other thing too is I've got the Benjamins going down the toilet here. And that's to emphasize that the money part is very, very important in ways that you wouldn't normally think of, like the marketing piece of making sure the vacancy is really low. That's one of the real parts of operations in the GP team. And, then there's bookkeeping and whatnot. But then the other way that a repositioner can find upside is by getting a contractor team. And that way, you fix the place up, you can charge more in rent. That means there's more money coming in for that property than there was. But if the repositioner is from the internet like me, they're going to need boots on the ground. They're going to need a local. They're going to need to be, there's going to have to be somebody in the fold who can be there in like an hour or two when something goes wrong, like when my house almost burned down last night. So you need the boots on the ground, not at my house, but at a commercial property. But that's more or less what people think of when they think of the team that owns and runs an apartment complex. But when you're taking them down, you're going to need the financier, which could be a capital raiser as well. But usually we think of it as the bank. So we go to a bank and we say, hey, lend me millions or tens of millions of dollars for this commercial property. And then they'll say, well, that's fine, but who's your sponsor? Is the first thing they're going to want to know. In other words, who is it that's on the team that already owns a similar asset? So if you want to buy a 350 unit apartment complex, then somebody in the fold has to already own a 350 unit complex if you want to get a loan. So even if you're Elon Musk or whatever. But those are the 6 different roles in a commercial deal. It sounds like you are ready to take on some sponsorship, but what's your core competency, or what part of a commercial deal are you most likely to contribute in the GP team?
Yeah, so I think I can say I'm a financier at this point, and I do bring equity to deals, so to good deals. And I like looking at the deal and looking at the investors, and if it's a good fit, bringing them together. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay, great. And so then, what is your buy box as far as like an ideal property? So unit count, geographic area. What property would just be way easier to say yes to than properties that are off of that mark?
Yeah, no, thank you. So we are always looking, I'm open to different markets in the country. I'm always looking for markets with rapid population growth and job growth, because those will be there'll be demand for our apartment complexes, and they'll be our renters, and the renters will have jobs to pay us. So those markets, and right now those markets are Texas, Florida, and Arizona. And as far as the property itself, I'd like for the property to be big enough to support its own maintenance crew and maybe a leasing officer and a manager. So I know double-digit property, like even if it's a 70, 80 unit, will support it. But my ideal would be anywhere between 150 to 400 units, and preferably Class B property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. And without breaking any SEC restrictions, which means you're not allowed to entice investors. That's not okay. That's actually why I use the term financier. But in real estate, it's such a supportive community as a whole, and everybody wants to help everybody. But there's always somebody that you can help more than anybody else. Maybe it's beginners, like who knows. But can you please describe the real estate person where you feel you could help that type of person more than anybody else?
Yeah, sure. I think it's multiple fold. So I could be a second set of eyes for operators on underwriting. And I could also, on the other side, I could also bring investors to the deals. So I can say, ERNA, did you think about this, restructuring the deal? And have you thought about maybe charging more for the view, or just creative ways of increasing income? And on the other side, help. I'm just really passionate about educating people on financial aspects. So yeah, so educating investors and also helping out operators would be what I do best.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. And we met through some of the meetups. I found a lot of them through LinkedIn. What's the best way to reach out to you? Is it through LinkedIn, or do you have a website that is better for that?
LinkedIn is the best place. So it's my full name, Deepa Reddy Akula. And yeah, you'll find me there. I'm pretty active. Not as active as you, but I am trying to be active and get there. So yeah, that's the
Excellent,
best
excellent.
way.
And speaking of which, if you don't know me, my background is in e-commerce technology and mass marketing, which means it's in lead capture, lead generation, and different automations to do with sales funnels. And what I'm doing is I'm helping some different sponsors with their personal branding or whatever it takes to do that kind of lead capture stuff, and then get that relationship before we end up having a co-GP situation where I'm streamlining mostly the repositioner side and helping with the digital systems for operations. But I have a favor to ask you in the camera thing there, which is under my hand here. There's a red button and it makes me sad. It says subscribe. And when you hit it, it turns gray. And that means that YouTube will start paying me for these videos instead of me, and that's much better. So please do that. All it does, it doesn't cost you anything, but what it does do possibly is add my videos to your list of suggestions. So if you ever actually pay attention to your list of suggestions on YouTube, you might see me again. But the main thing is I'm in it for the money. So please help. But that's what I got to say. But Deepa, it's been fantastic speaking to you today. I thank you so much for coming out.
No, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you. Thanks.
Thanks.